Never insult Albus Dumbledore in front of me. I'm Professor Vocus, and this is Harry Potter Wizards Unite.
Hello, Professor. I didn't see you there.
As you can see right here, I finally did get Hagrid's umbrella. Not just this umbrella. I already had this umbrella. I got that umbrella. And actually, I don't know if you noticed the time, if you want to rewind it and look at the time, it was 1 o'clock in the morning last night. I was actually awake and I just opened up the game. One spawn appeared. It was a mysterious artifact, and it was Hagrid's umbrella. I used a Dawdle Draft, and I used an Extimulo Potion because I just did not want it to get away. Anyway, let's head to Mysterious Artifacts. In the registry, Room of Requirement 2, finally get to place that image. 4 Ministry Manuals, 50 Family Experience, which I don't think gets me a rank up. But we get all those fragments I finally get to carry over to the next page, which is awesome. Nice, we're at gold, which is great because I see these types of traces all the time. I'm not sure what it is, but a lot of places I go, there always seems to be a lot of these. And right now, none of the landmark flags are even activated, so it's not that. And honestly, it's in areas where the landmark flags are Dark Arts or Legends of Hogwarts, but I'll still see a bunch of these type of spawns, which means I'll get to place these images over and over and get more ministry manuals and field guides, which is good. So anyway, finally did upgrade all of those fragments carried over. Over here at Magizoology, not much has changed. We are gonna, at the end of this episode, in just a little bit, we're actually going to run a couple night bus trips. Number one, to see if the night bus is working before this event begins. And then the second thing is to try to get either the Alchemy or the Murtlap and see if we'll have one more image to place when the event starts. Moving on to more widespread, topical Harry Potter Wizards Unite drama issues. It's all of that. It's definitely all that. On my screen right now, you can see this is a message that was put out by Harry Potter Wizards Unite Lola, who is like the community social media person, the front facing for Warner Brothers games. It says, update, as mentioned on our known issues list, there was a bug where the trace charm sometimes provided duplicate traces. We will be pushing a server fix to address the accidental duplicate traces. This fix will be pushed shortly, and players will no longer see identical traces revealed by the trace charm. This confused me at first because, again, not wording it, and I don't even know if she's the one that wrote this or someone else wrote this, and then she was the one that had to actually put it up. Regardless, it's confusing because it just talks about sometimes provides duplicate traces. Well, there's two things that I could think of at that time, which was, number one, we talk about the original trace charm recipient cloning itself, just getting one more of it. So I thought maybe it was just that. It turned out to be much, much worse. It was talking about, apparently it was referring to the fact that if I put it on an emergency foundable and I get 7 more traces, those 7 more traces were all the same exact emergency foundable. That apparently isn't how it's supposed to work, is what they're saying. And what has happened in-game, which we'll talk about in 2 seconds. So the clone is still happening. That's not what they're referring to. In fact, we still don't even know if that is supposed to happen or if they're going to tell us that that was also a problem. But really, it's the fact that all your additional traces, those were not supposed to all be the same thing. They're supposed to be just a bunch of random traces. So what has happened now is the trace charm has pretty much been nerfed a lot. Up until this point with the trace charm, barring the fragment problem we had before, even with or without that we would see a trace, whatever level, severe emergency. Let's just say emergency for the sake of this demonstration. We would have an emergency foundable, we would put the trace charm on it, we would get a number of other traces of at least that level. So emergency would produce more emergencies. Severe would produce more severe or potentially emergency actually in the past. So still awesome, exciting, getting better things. But and the number of that would be based on your efficacy. If you had efficacy from the SOS nodes of, 4, then you'd get 4 more traces, and they would all be that level, and they would all be the same thing. In yesterday's video, I had stuff like that, where I put Trace Charms down, and then I got a bunch of Draco Malfoy Slytherin Seekers, and then I got a bunch of Fawkes and stuff like that. Well, that's done. Since the time I recorded that video yesterday, in fact, when I got done recording that video, that's when I started seeing Discord blow up about the fact that the Trace Charm had changed. So now if you put a Trace Charm on a Foundable, you will probably, right now as it is, you're going to get one of that same level. So I put it on an emergency Foundable, I'll get one more emergency Foundable, then it will produce a bunch of random Foundables. And from screenshots and a lot of people talking, mainly it's just common, normal stuff. And you're still on and you just get 2 fragments from each. So from what it was to what it's become at the moment, it is seriously less. It is a lot less than what we got. I mean, the difference between me getting 5 more Fawkes or 5 more Draco Malfoy Seekers and getting one of them and then a bunch of just common Foundables, I mean, that's huge. It's more like using, and people have likened it to a tonic for trace detection, which it is, except for the fact, I guess, that you get that one high-level Foundable. And I guess that's what that rarity node that talked about the chance of getting a rare spawn, that's, I guess, what it's referring to. Again, the wording they used was not great. That's an understatement. And people are rightfully upset because, again, we talked about this in that other video when I talked about the fragment change, is that people invested resources. Now it's kind of affected me because I did invest resources trying to get to Trace Charm, and it probably would have been better spent going in other directions. Like, honestly, just go ahead and getting to Spell Mastery. Even just using it for Spell Mastery for individual families, for using it for overall Spell Mastery, or using it to get to open up nodes and work my way closer or open up wizarding experience from trunks, from opening trunks. Any of those, because the Trace Charm not being as powerful now, it just doesn't make as much sense to have as many. Like, I've been working toward level 46 so that I could get 5 Trace Charm capacity. Now that's not as a big a deal because it's not as powerful. Using it that many times isn't going to be as powerful. In fact, me getting 5 Trace Charm casts, even if I cast all of them in one day, that essentially will be less or about the same as if I had done one under the previous Trace Charm, the way it worked. So people are definitely not happy. I say that's an understatement. People are really angry about this change. I'm definitely not happy with the way they've handled it, certainly. As for playing the game and stuff like that, yeah, of course, I'm still going to play the game. I still enjoy the game. The Trace Charm wasn't the reason I played the game. It wasn't essential to my wanting to level up and stuff like that. I'm fine with just doing my normal Barufios and going around and just getting Foundables and not the Trace Charm. I mean, I did that for many levels before the Trace Charm even existed. But the way they've handled it is definitely not good, and people have thrown out a lot of potential solutions. I hope Portkey Games has been listening, or even looks, just to get some read on their audience so that they might have some ideas. One thing that has been put forward was talking about resetting the skill tree, and people were like, no, you can't do that, and because they'll mess it up again, they'll get bugs in it. Most people weren't saying don't do it because it wouldn't be a good idea, because there's really no harm in it specifically, unless they screw it up and bug, or if they bug it and forget how many books you had spent somehow, if that happened, that would be horrible. Now, I will say, as someone that played World of Warcraft from Blizzard Games, that, again, it's an RPG. It's not Harry Potter Wizards Unite. It's a different game, but it's the same idea of that you're moving forward. Also, as a longtime player of Warcraft, same type of things have happened to Warcraft throughout the years, where they introduced something and they just messed it up, and they essentially had to just redo it. And they actually had skill trees in that. In fact, one of my first videos before this game even came out, I was wondering how they were going to handle these skill trees and compared it to Warcraft. In Warcraft, they've been redone multiple times, whether it's been good or not, and each time when they reintroduced a new system, even if it was a slight change or something like that, they actually did give players they gave them all their points back to then rebuild their tree. For us, points would essentially be they give us back all the field guides, ministry manuals, restricted section books, defense against dark arts books that it took to unlock the nodes. So I feel like it's possible. And honestly, that would be the best solution to me, is for them to go ahead and they can take their time with this. They can even tell us they're doing it and say, hey, in 1 month, we're going to reset the tree, just so you know. So then I could actually spend stuff now and just be like, okay, well, I'll spend it now. We'll do this stuff. And then when they reset, I'll reevaluate, have more time. They'll have more time to maybe reword everything so then we can make even better decisions when they reset. But they go ahead and take the time. Take a month. Take 2 months. I would even be fine with that. I think there's not much you can do now to just fix it. You're not just going to fix what has been done, but take a couple months to actually figure out, okay, how can we calculate each person's account, give everybody the things back, and then reset the skill tree. So I would be all for them figuring out a way to do this, telling us they're going to do it, and they're working on making sure they're going to do it, and then telling us they're going to implement it in X amount of time. Because at least then, right now, we could still be spending stuff just knowing we're going to get the reset anyway. And I know it means that some of us got to use the trace charm, and now we're going to back out and then go a different direction. I don't feel like anybody gets hurt. It's some people got more benefits. But if you have to choose between the two, leaving everything where it is and having people that were hurt by this and are upset and can't get things back, to, okay, you got to be overpowered for a while or more powered and got benefits that other people didn't necessarily get because you had more resources at the time. That's probably the better of the two options, but that's just my opinion on it. I definitely feel like they need to do something, and it shouldn't be a complimentary gift. I guess my short take on the whole thing is people, from everything I've read, are less upset about the fact that the trace charm is changing. I haven't heard people arguing that, no, you've made it too weak and now it's not a good thing. People have said that, but I almost feel like the subtext is you didn't communicate, which is completely true. People were upset definitely about lack of communication. And then people were upset that they had spent these resources into it and they have lost resources. Because many people said if the trace charm had just been this way from the beginning, that would have been fine. At least you knew where you stood. And people might have said, oh, that's not a good thing. But there's other things in the game that people say, oh, witch sharpening potion, don't really use them. People are fine with that because at least then you just don't invest in that. You just say, that's not something I'm going to use. That's part of the game, but I don't have to use it. I'm cool with that. Instead, they put a thing out. It looked really good. It was good. People invested in it. And then you pulled the rug out from underneath them. So not a good thing. But again, the Wizarding Weekend starts today and later today for me. And I'll still be going out and playing because, again, it doesn't affect how my day-to-day went. The Trace Charm was always a bonus thing for me. And it is a bummer that I've invested those resources. But I didn't have a lot, so I haven't gone too far. And I haven't actually gotten to Cold Case yet, which I'm probably going to get anyway, just because I need to get through that node and that kind of thing. That's what's going on with the Trace Charm. So, I mean, we'll have to see how this all unfolds. I don't think things have been specifically settled yet. Official sources have put out that the devs understand that people are upset and are essentially working to try to, make things right. So, which people have said they don't really believe that. So we'll just have to wait and see if that is the case and find out what their solution might be, if it's going to be one of the things people have recommended or if they have some other solution to this. Anyway, I do want to finish this video out with a couple trips on the night bus, to see if it's working, because some people, I guess, were having some trouble. And we're going to go to Tower Chamber 1 because I'm going to solo some stuff. And it's Magic Zoology. I have a level 2 and a level 3 runestone. And then I have some 4s and 5s, but I'm not going to use the 4s and 5s because I'm just doing solo. So I'm going to use the 2 and the 3, and we're going to see if we can get a Murtlap or an Alchemy, one of those two. So these should go pretty quickly. It usually doesn't take me too long. Hey, look, a formidable pixie. Yeah, so right here he has 2 health left. A lot of times when they have 2 health left, I won't even try to hit him anymore. Because I have the Deterioration Hex, I won't waste an energy on that. Because I'm at home and I can't replenish energy. Acromantulas are some of the worst for me soloing, just because they take, I say worse, they take me like 3 or 4 hits, depending on if I crit or not. Whereas like Pixies and Werewolves, a lot of them, I will take them out with 1 hit. So just 1 energy use, which is really the benefit of that. Nice, but 3 foes, 3 down, portable swamp, and oh, another Thunderbird. That's for those of you that didn't see any of my other videos ever. The last time I ran with the Magizoology Runestone, I got the Thunderbird. I'm already 14 out of 14 on it, so that's the only thing I don't need, and I keep getting it again. So anyway, that was one run through. Let's go ahead and do a level 3 Runestone and see if we can get anything else. The Alchemy would be the perfect thing, really. There we go. So with no crits, it actually takes me 4 hits. That was an imposing Death Eater, though. But you'll see here, like this Pixie, I'll just go ahead and hit this Pixie. Usually, especially common Pixie, it should be 1 energy, really. And that's why this level tends to be pretty good if I'm getting foes like that. So, Acromantula, again, it's a common, but it'll still probably take me 3 hits. Unless I get a crit. Nice, so I did get a crit, which means it took me 2 hits. Again, just trying to keep energy efficient. You see, another Thunderbird. Man, Thunderbird, it really wants to give me Thunderbird. It's unfortunate I haven't placed the image. I am going to run, so I do have, I just wanted to run with the lower runestones. Because I do have level 4 and level 5 runestones. But once the event starts, I'm probably going to run maybe some higher level. People will be on the night bus more during events. And I'm probably going to run the night bus, in which case 4 and 5 runestones are just more useful for the experience gain. And I'll do the higher level chambers, and I'll get probably, I say, more guaranteed fragments. If I do Dark 5, it's obviously guaranteed. But I'll go wherever numbers are. If I see 4 people in, I don't know, Forest Chamber 5, then I'll just go there and do that. Which still gives you a higher percentage chance to return a foundable. You saw, though, I just ran 2 chambers and I got foundables both times. And that was only like a, whatever, 60, 70% chance. I haven't done that. I haven't figured out what Tower 1 is in my head. Ruins 5 is 50%, Dark is 100, and then it just scales up in between. So event starts later today for me. I'll be hitting that later, and then you'll see that video tomorrow. But Trace Charm, lots of weird things happening with it. Obviously, since the SOS trees have come out, the Trace Charm has been the most divisive and troublesome thing that Portkey Games has seen. All that being said, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Nox.